Alrighty, hello and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Welcome to today's session, the Bitaxe Townhall number 18. Before we do start, I do want to give you an overview of today's topics of what's going on and what's happening in the Bitaxe community. First of all, this weekend is the Baltic Honey Badger, where Scott is actually attending, as well as Bitmaker. It would be such a coincidence if these people actually come on the town hall here today, but I bet they will not, because they do have plenty of other things to do and plenty of people to meet. After that, I want to talk about these new Discord roles that are introduced to this Discord server, which are the official support role and the firmware tester role. I'll dive into that a little bit later. And after that, I want to talk about the new workflow which we do have for GitHub, as well as a new firmware which has been released specifically for the hex, and I want to give a future lookout. I also want to talk with you about the reason being for having now this separation between the Bitaxe firmware and the Bitaxe multi-chip firmware, which is used for the hex currently. And after that, I want to give you a quick glimpse into the section of what's going on with all this firmware. There are so many things, and things are moving now. The firmware of everything will be moved over to the BitaxeHex GitHub organization. It's called BitaxeOrg, just like I spelled it. And all the firmware that we do have and that we will produce in the foreseeable future will be moved over there. Alright, these are all the topics that I do have for today. Let's talk about the Baltic Honey Badger, which is a event, a convention over there, Bitcoin specific and Nostr stuff over there in Riga, if I'm not mistaken. And Scott is over there, and Bitmaker is over there as well, and they are representing the Open Source Miners United community, as well as talking about the Bitaxe device. And we'll see you probably next time on the next town hall, number 19, as soon as this hits in 2 weeks, how it has been, and maybe they can share a little bit about it. Alright, let's now dive into Discord and the new roles that we do have. First of all, we do have a new role which is called Official Support. And this role is specifically for you, for the community. It is a role that we felt the need to introduce. These people, and there are currently 2, are paid to do what they're doing. And what they are doing is just sitting there all day long in Discord and giving you support. If you do have any questions, these people actually hop in and try to answer your questions as quick as possible. They are, I think, at least I know one of them is sitting over in the US. So maybe if you do have some time delay over there, or take some time for them to actually answer your question, be aware that times and time zones are sometimes a little bit different, and be cautious on that. So these people, as I said, are actually paid, not that much, I think $100 per month. But still, it's just amazing. They are just here for you, and we felt the need for it, because usually what we have been done until now was we, and I'm calling out all of us on the development side, try to do our best to actually give you a good understanding about what's going on the firmware, or answer your questions, whatever it was. But now the interest in Open Source Miners United is just so big that we can't stand it any longer, and we needed to have them. And this also brings over this other role, which is called firmware tester. And I need to give a quick explanation here. For the official support role, you can't apply to this currently, but you can apply to the firmware tester role, which is a new role that I introduced because I felt the need for this as well. We had the version 2.19, which was a disaster. And in order to counter into that, I bring into life this new role called firmware tester. And you can go into our Discord, which can be found under discord.gg/osmu. If you are listening to this later on and not aware of our Discord, this is our main focus of communication, and I really encourage you to check it out. You can learn so much about Bitaxe and development in the open source space on there. So I introduced this role firmware tester, and you can take a look on the left hand side on your Discord desktop application. There's a channel called Apply for Role, and you can just apply for your for becoming a firmware tester. There are 30 slots in total. A couple of them are already taken, but we need more people. So please, if you do want to do that, please do so. The firmware testers only need to answer basically 2 questions: why we should choose you as a firmware tester, and the second one is how many or what kind of Bitaxe device do you have. And the important part about this is that I'm currently the only one who is actually approving or declining these applications. And usually what I do is I take a look on, all right, what are these people writing and how many devices do they have? Because you need to be sure, or I need to be sure, that I do have people in there that are testing the firmware that I'm sending there, that they actually understand a little bit. So for example, we had a couple of applications that I just didn't accept it. The reason being is people are joining into this Discord, and if they apply for this role, and I do see they are only like 1 week in there, and they just write in there, I have no experience, I just want to give back to this community, which is great and needed, it is probably not the right choice to choose you as a firmware tester, because I want people to understand that they are using firmware test and that they are these testers for upcoming releases. So I need to be sure that I have a couple of people that at least have a little bit of understanding of what's going on there. They don't need to be a programmer or anything else. They just need to be aware of, all right, somebody is in this weird Discord sending me over firmware files. I need to apply them. I need to take a quick look on what he wants me to do. I do that and I reply back to him. It's not that complicated, but I want people that do have at least a little bit of understanding about the Bitaxe device. I don't need people to test this stuff that are just 1 week into Bitcoin mining and have general questions, because this channel is specifically for firmware testing and not for answering any questions regarding general mining topics. Also, these firmware testers are really needed, because as I said, with 2.19 there was this issue of releasing a firmware which was just faulty, and with these firmware testers we were actually able, in a couple of days, in a matter of days, a few days was it actually, to release the version 2.1.10, which is so far the greatest and best firmware that we have ever released, and more cool stuff is coming on this as well. Also, this comes in really handy with this new workflow that we do have for GitHub, because on GitHub we actually need to have some sort of a workflow. Usually, yeah, we were doing stuff there a little bit in a shady way, and not shady, but you know, sometimes people pushed stuff over to the master branch without having other people to check on it, which was good if it actually works, but it is bad in terms of documenting everything and what's going on. And the approach here with OSMU and with all this firmware development is to have it as good as possible, understandable for everybody, which introduces this need for the firmware tester and also for the official support role, because we want to have everybody being able to understand about what's going on there. And yeah, these firmware testers are really needed, and I'm really thankful for everybody. And yeah, if you want to apply for it, just do so, but be aware about the fact that it is sort of this alpha stage, beta stage. So if you do that, you don't actually would be able to brick your device or anything like that. But yeah, it could be that something is going wrong. Like, you will never destroy your device just from using firmware. Let me quickly take a look in the chat. Robin4 was asking, can we get the 2 names of the 2 peoples so we know? Yeah, sure. I mean, on Discord they're called STS Miner and Stealth 2600. If you do take a look on Discord on the application, the desktop application, just on the right hand side, you should have multiple roles and the naming scheme for those roles, such as moderators, admins, decentral, supporters, official support, firmware testers, and so on. So just take a look on official support, ask them. They do have this bluish color scheme. It's a little bit similar to the supporter role number 1, I believe. But yeah, you should be able to find them. All right. Nevertheless is asking, what's the to-do list for being a software tester? I just tested television software a couple of years ago. Yeah, I think I kind of answered that, and yeah, he said, all right, he got it. That's good. So yeah, with these firmware testers, these people should just check out what's going on there with the firmware and be compliant. And like I do write in chat, all right, this is a new introduction of this button. Please check it out. Do some stuff with the device, and then actually test it and respond to me or any other developer that is sending in their firmware to test if it actually works or not. So yeah, I do think this should give a good overview about these firmware testers and this new Discord role that we do have over there. And yeah, as I said, like with the workflow that we try to introduce with oh wait, this new question: has beta software ever bricked devices in the past? The short answer to that is no. I mean, as I tried to explain it to you, with firmware, usually you can't really brick your device. You could corrupt it, and I'm trying to express it as good as possible. It happens that some people had power outages, and after that, their device was no longer working, and it wouldn't be connected, or it couldn't connect to the PC. It's a little bit funny with the web flasher that I wrote. For whatever reason, if your device does have a corrupted bootloader, it wouldn't be recognized from this one. But funny enough, shout out to BitMaker, theirs do detect it. So what you could technically do is go over, if you do have a bricked or browned out device that is not working, go over to the BitMaker flasher, just flash any other firmware on it, and then go back to the BitX web flasher and flash on the correct version that you do want. It's a little bit weird, and yeah, I do work on it, and there's a new web flasher coming into it, and yeah, I'll try to fix as much stuff as I can. But yeah, so yeah, it shouldn't be the case that devices are actually bricked or anything else. All right, it appears to be that we do have Scott here with us, which is lovely. And for those of you who are now listening to this later on, this up to this point is a voiceover. I lost the audio, and the audio from Scott and BitMaker currently being at Baltic Honey Badger will be restored in just a couple of seconds. But they're over there, they're lovely. They have met a couple of people, and currently they're drinking beer and sitting next to the brains people. I told them to spit in front of their feet, but they probably do this after the next day, because they need to attend on a couple of stages, so they can't do that. I was just shit talking here a little bit. I'm sorry. I need to do that. It's just the ethos of my heart and how I feel about proprietary hardware. But yeah, let's see. So audio will be restored just any second, and then you can listen live to what they're saying over there.
I'm talking about the apps, no? Like release.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me? I'm currently at Baltic Honey Badger with the one and only BitMaker standing right here next to me.
What's up, guys? Nice to meet you. Yeah, for sure. It was amazing to meet Scott here.
It's so cool. BitMaker is, of course, the legendary creator of the Nerd Miner, but also one of the first collaborators I ever had, along with Nebula, on the Bitaxe. We're drinking beers right now.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, good.
We're at a bar called The Basement, and we paid for our beers in Bitcoin.
We are near the brains people. We're very near from the basement. We are very near to the brains people.
No, we have to go to the conference tomorrow also.
Yeah.
Yeah, after. There you go. All right, and back. It's amazing. It's a relatively small conference compared to things like Nashville.
Exactly.
I think what did they say? It was like 1,000 people.
Yeah, more or less. But there are really people very proud about Bitcoin and that's working on it. And there are really OG people who, if you want to come here and really meet people who are involved in Bitcoin, that's the real conference on European. That so it's something that you should do.
Yeah, it's a pretty legit conference. Everyone here is very into Bitcoin, and you get to talk with a lot of cool people.
We just spent all the day talking. We have to admit that. But tomorrow it will be an amazing day. We will starting talking about the Nerdax and Bitaxe project. We personally we will be doing a workshop about the Nerdax and the open source and how Bitaxe achieved that. This for the people to be there and to be building things around Bitax and how everything could achieve this. And at 2 p.m. we will have a Scott on a panel talking about mining and another incredible stuff. And we're hoping to see them there.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm looking forward to hear more about this.
Yeah, and then I'm on a panel, like I said, and then I think a little bit later I'm giving a talk just on the BitX on the FOSS stage, and then another panel on the crypto no the cypherpunks
Cypherpunk.
stage, and it's I don't know what it's about yet, but it's titled Doomsday.
Oh, that's interesting.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that's for sure. So please keep us posted about what's going on over there.
We will
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
If you don't hear from us ever again, it's because the brains guys got us.
Yeah. Take a look that today I took a lot of people on the conference know about Bitax and a lot of people of the conference come to Scott to say, hey, the amazing job that you're doing, it's incredible. You have to keep going. You have to keep growing. And all the community that's around Bitax, like you and all the people that's now on Townhall, have made it possible. So we should keep it going and do that stuff again for the next year because this is just the ground of the Bitcoin mining and the solo mining, and we started like this thanks to Bitax, and we could achieve this just because of that work that we are doing together. That's the thing.
It's a
The
movement.
excitement is really high. Like everyone is very excited about it, and wants to know more, and everyone wants to get more bit axes and talk about it. So yeah, I mean, what basically everyone here as part of OSMU is doing is fantastic. So the message is been keep it up.
Lovely. Lots
I'm
of
wearing
hearts
my
sent
Solo
over to you
Satoshi shirt
guys.
as well.
Great. That's amazing. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So good.
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to share with
Oh my
us?
gosh, Nebula is in here.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nebula Miner. Hey man.
A true legend. A true legend. All right. If there's not anything else you want to share with us, I'd like to proceed with today's topics.
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
maybe someone in the
Sorry.
audience does have a
Stop
question for
interrupting
you. I
you.
don't know.
Shout out to everyone.
See you guys.
All right. Have fun over there. Have fun. It's amazing. What a coincidence that these two are joining actually in here to today's town hall. It's lovely. All right, where were we? I think I talked about firmware and the firmware tester. And I gave you a little bit of an impression what I'm trying to do with these firmware testers, and that you can actually apply for this. We do have plenty of room in the firmware tester role, but I need to say, be aware if you do that. I expect you to at least have a little bit of knowledge about what you're doing. You don't need to be a coder or anything else, but you need to be aware of you are testing beta software and things are changing quickly. So yeah, I usually I do give instructions to these people. All right, upload this, test it, do that, and give me a response what's happening. That's usually what I do because I need multiple devices. I only have, I don't know, what do I have here? A little shout out to BitMaker. I do have my NerdX here right next to me, of course, and a couple of BitX. But fun fact, I don't even have a single Supra working here. All of these Supras that I worked on that I worked on for myself are not working, but all of these units that I gave to other people are working. I don't know what's going on there, but nevertheless. So that's the reason why I'm talking about firmware testers, because I want to make sure that the firmware that we do release never ever has the same issue as the version 2.19, which we had lots of issues with. And luckily, with firmware testers and everything else, we could achieve to release the version 2.1.10 really quickly. And so far, version 2.1.10 is the best ever that we have released, which is just amazing. I do get these Apple vibes over here, man. Wow. All right. This also goes hand in hand with this new workflow that we do have on GitHub. So, funny thing, we do have a couple of branches, and if you are into GitHub and all this stuff, you might know about it, but pushing right into the main branch is kind of stupid, I'd say, but from time to time we used to do that. And this workflow has a little bit shifted now. So from now on we will never do this again, but rather we will have a branch for each actual change that we do. And if this gets approved by the developers and the firmware tester tested it and it is working out really good, then this will go over to the main or master branch and will get into the next release, which is good and which is a better workflow compared to what we did before that. So yeah, with that said, I'll quickly hop over one topic and go to the second one. We will move all the firmware that we do have and that we will release in the near future to a complete new organization on GitHub. So currently all these repositories for the Bitaxe, for the hardware and for the software are on the repository from Scott's account, and we will move everything over to the BitaxeHex organization. It's called the BitaxeHex, like I spelled it, and that's the name for it on GitHub. Currently only one firmware is on there, which is the new firmware that I released, I believe, 2 days ago for the hex. It is specifically only for the hex, and I'll explain why we do that and why I've decided to do that, or why this might be the better approach instead of packing everything into one thing. But yeah, just for you to know, we will move from Scott's repositories over to the BitaxeOrg repositories so that we do have this whole topic, organization topic, feel stuff around it, and actually acknowledge everybody who's working on that. Obviously, on each release that we do have, we will mention and shout out everybody who has contributed to it, and we will actually make sure that in these release notes your name is stated. And this is amazing, but we were thinking about it to move everything over there, to have this BitaxeHex organization to just be this spot of spotlight that you do need, instead of pointing everything to Scott. I think he also goes really hand in hand with that, and I mean, it was his idea, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Scott, right? Ah, and I see Solar Satoshi will send me one over for R&D purposes. Oh, that's amazing. I love you guys. This is really amazing. Check out Solar Satoshi and the latest Ultra setup guide that I released with them as the sponsor, which is just amazing. It's this all-in-one guide for you to actually understand what's going on the Bitaxe. So probably nothing that's interesting for the people in the audience here, but for people that are listening to this town hall later on. All right, now that we talked about that, Anti-Attack is asking when Gamma firmware. I believe there is a prototype firmware already on GitHub, which is on its own branch. Let me quickly check this out for you, that I don't tell you anything that's not correct. So on the repo ESP miner, we do have Gamma support branch, and in there this one should actually work for the Gamma. And the last commit has been done by Scott last week, so I guess this is the one that he showed off on X, and which should work with the Gamma. Funny enough, talking about the Gamma, for those of you who are not aware of all these different name schemes that we do have, it starts from the Max to the Ultra to the Supra to the Gamma that we currently do have. And each new name introduces a new ASIC chip, so higher hash rate, better efficiency. But we also do have other products such as the BitaxeHex, which is using these chips from the Ultra, the BM1366, and just attach them into 2 voltage domains or 3 voltage domains chained into parallel. So we do have 6 chips on one board. That's the name scheme for the hex. And this also brings me over to the reason why we do have a unique firmware specifically tied to the hex. So we have created ESP miner, which is just amazing and works really flawlessly. But in order to make sure that we don't bloat it with too much stuff, we had to take into consideration which kind of path we want to go. And initially we thought of having one firmware for everything, which would be amazing, but it actually could cause other issues, such as having stuff in your firmware on your device that you don't actually need on the current device that you're running on. Let's say, for example, you do have hex tied into this normal firmware, and then you do try to run your super or your gamma, and you just have other stuff on there that you don't actually need. So it could work for quite a while, but let's say in 10 years from now on, we are at the point that we do have 20 different devices, 30 different devices, who knows? Why give support to everything in one firmware if you just make it a little bit more complicated, especially if you're changing parts on it? For example, the EMC2101, which is there to actually measure the temperature on the board and give control to your fans, is completely different to the EMC2302, which can handle 2 fans. And maybe some of you would say or argue now, no, this is not completely different, and you could actually make this a little bit more objective, programmed, and this would make things easier. Sure, that's a possibility, but with the current flow and the current coding style that we do have with the ESP miner firmware, this would just bloat up everything in a manner which is not healthy for the overall good. And that's the reason why I took the firmware from the hex, and we just have our own repository, which is now called ESP-miner-multichip. And multichip is just there to actually identify this will go on any device with more than just one ASIC on it. Let's say, for example, the prototype that I'm currently working on, the Bitaxe Nano, will also have this firmware in a little bit of a modification, because it uses 2 chips. But if I only would use 1 chip, I wouldn't actually load this on there. And then we still will have the firmware repository for the ESP-miner, which will go on any Bitaxe. So yeah, it's just like this separation between those 2 things, so that we don't actually bloat stuff. Because subsequently, if you do produce units with more than just 1 ASIC chip, you need more stuff on there, which is in the short term not that bad, but in the long term it could fire back. And also, I want to give you a little bit of a future look out there. In the future, there will be devices with more than just 6 chips. There will be devices that are way bigger. I hope we don't get into this industrial term of having like 3000 watt machines, but we will definitely hit into the 1000 watt market, which I'd say is probably something in the space of using it as a space heater. But you do get the point. Things are getting a little bit more complicated, and with an ESP on your PCB, you're also limited on multiple factors. These things are microcontrollers. They are not that quick, and they do need the time to actually handle stuff. For example, with one of our earliest releases, with the version 2.19, I tried to introduce something that has been written by PMAXUW, which is basically taking the queue of the ASIC array and just trying to fire the jobs right into it, which caused older chips like the BM1397 to have issues and trouble trying to communicate with the ESP, because the ESP couldn't handle this. It was just too quick to have a sort of communication with it. This is text-savvy stuff here. I'm not trying to get into deep of that because I like to have this tone of being a little bit more on the new side and answering your questions. But I want to raise your awareness about this. Things are really complicated, especially if you're trying to support multiple different chips. Usually what you do see on these big machines, like provided by Bitmain or WhatsMiner, they usually have one firmware specifically tied to this specific unit. Maybe a couple of things are the same on older models, but usually they do use the firmware and then apply different settings to it, whatever it's needed with the device. For example, the communication between these ASIC chips and the control unit on an S19 is completely different compared to an S19 XP. It's just the way how these ASIC chips are there in the communication side. So this is really something that you should take into consideration, and I hope this gives you some food for thoughts for the future, what's coming there. If we do see from now on and every year a new chip or 2 new chips coming out from Bitmain, then it's going to be tough in the future. We will have a huge ASIC list of devices that we actually need to support. And this also brings me over to another cool topic, because we do have a couple of intelligent people, and I need to shout out Nebula Miner here again, that are reworking the ESP miner firmware over to Rust. And a couple of you people will probably now cheer and say, yeah, Rust is the best for everything. There are pros and cons to it, but creating a second language which is running, or using a second language which is running ESP miner firmware to grow this community and this movement, this firmware movement, and also this ethos behind the Bitaxe project even further is just great. We need this for more adoption from the people. So you could also now go ahead and just rewrite the whole ESP miner firmware from C to C++. Probably most of the stuff you wouldn't even need to touch, because it's trivial to transform, but you could do it in Python, or you could do it in any other language. I'm just not sure if you can do it in MicroPython, but maybe you can. But yeah, that's the thing, and I really need to take this here on today's town hall, because these are the topics that are currently going on. Let me quickly take a look in the chat. Ozzy994 was asking, I might have missed it, but do you have any expectations about the amount of hours that should be dedicated to firmware testing per week? Thanks. No, not really. As I said, for the firmware testers, what I do expect is just people that are not completely fresh into this ecosystem. And we had a couple of people that I just throw out there, because I was in the first couple of hours I was just blindly accepting people because I needed people to test my firmware, which was good. But after a while it turns out a couple of people are not that tech savvy, and I needed to throw them out, not because I'm mean, but because they ask too much instead of provide, so it would interrupt the workflow, and that's what I'm trying to clean up there. So I'm just looking there for people, and also the other developers that are sending stuff in there. We're just looking for people that are just testing this and fulfilling the requirements or these specific needs that are asked in this upload. Let's say, for example, in the next couple of days I'll upload a firmware which will introduce a new UI change for the BitaxeHex, thanks to PMAXUW. Man, your name is so weird, but whatever. Which will introduce a little bit better hash rate calculation over time and give you a way nicer look on it on the web UI, and also give you the feature that if you do close your web UI and open it up after like 1 hour, your logs will still be there, so you can see the hash rate of the past, which is just amazing. And really a big shout out to you, buddy. This is just insane what you did there. So for this specific firmware, I would just send it in there and tell the people, all right, test it, and I don't know, test it over 48 hours and tell me after 48 hours, do you still see your stuff rebooted, clear your logs, whatever. Try everything, do some shit with your device, and then see if it still works or not. This is my usual approach. And when I do introduce, or when we do introduce new stuff, such as, all right, there's a new button, click it, or I have here a fix for the swarm functionality, because I do know plenty of people are calling out that swarm is not working nice. Then I just do some fixes, send it over, and get a quick response if it is working or not. Especially, like, imagine I'm on the go, having my laptop with me, typing some fixes in there, sending it out, and getting an instant response from people who do have multiple devices at home and can test it quickly if this fix actually works or not. And this is my approach that I'm taking there. So far, most of the other developers haven't done this yet, but I expect them to do the same as well, because we have plenty of developments going on. But currently, we do like a little bit on the side of contribution, So if anybody of you does have knowledge in programming or in coding in general, I highly recommend to you to check out the ESP-minor repo and just become a contributor. We need help with everything, basically. We do have a huge list of issues that we need to fix. Some of these issues are nonsense, some of them are actually worth it, but yeah, it's the way how it is and how FOSS software actually works. We need people to tell us what's going wrong, and we need other people that are joining in there just because they love it and provide some sort of a fix. Right. Again, I need to give you this glimpse. If you do have any questions, or if you do feel the need to come up on stage and just have a chat, feel free to do so. Just raise your hand, I'll bring you up on stage. And other than that, let me quickly take a look on what other topics we do have, because I don't want to have this to be too short. Oh my goodness, yeah, all right, we need to talk about this. PMAXUW, he's a legend, he's a true legend. I need to acknowledge that. If you guys do scroll down a bit into the node miner section, he has done some incredible work and reworking or combining, creating, forging this merge of two devices. So he has created the Pi miner, the QX, the QX Plus, the 0xX, the FlexX, and various other things as well. So he's really crazy what's going on the hardware side. He also is really good on the firmware side as well. And now he has created the Node QX Plus. Naming scheme's a little bit weird. I need to acknowledge this as well. But it is what it is. At least we're not some sort of a TV company who's giving really weird names. But it's just amazing. So what he has done is taking the QX Plus, which is basically one board, 4 BM1368 chips, so the super chips, on one board, and then he combined it with the node miner. So if you just scroll down there in the Node QX Plus channel, give him some love, please, and acknowledge that he's doing great work on this, because now you can use this as a standalone unit. Usually he worked on devices that actually need to be attached to a other PC or a Raspberry Pi. So he was using an STM to have the communication between these ASIC chips and then a control unit. And now we do have the Node QX Plus, which is 4 ASIC chips on one device using this beautiful screen, the LilyGo T display that has also been used for the Node Miner and the Node X. And it's just giving a beautiful screen, and it can be used as a standalone device, which is just fantastic. And recently he introduced this change to the web UI of actually creating a little bit different calculation for the hash rate. So usually with BitX devices, you do see your hash rate right away. It's firing right into your face, which is good because people get hyped about it. Way, I reached like 20 terahash on my BitX. I'm becoming rich tomorrow. And then they do realize, all right, this is just short-term calculation. After 5 minutes, my device is down to 700 gigahash, which is funny. But yeah, he introduced a average of 10 minutes. And then he also did this fantastic job of working on it, creating 1 hour and 1 day hash rate charts for it as well, which is on this side not that hard. But the hard part that he actually did was working on using more of the ESP device. On the ESP device is not only like CPU cores that you are used from your daily PC that you probably do use, and then a little bit of RAM and flash or storage like an HDD on SSD. It's just called flash on an ESP. And then there's this PSRAM, which is something that we never really used on the ESP device so far, and he introduced the usage of it and using this as a buffer for the web UI. So what happens now is, as soon as you do load the web UI, you do get your shards that are currently pulled there, but also what it does is it saves occasionally this data from your device as long as it is running on this device, and then it actually tries to pull this data from it and displays it to you on your screen. So if you do take a look on the Node QX Plus channel, and his latest picture that he posted in there was of his Node QX with all these different charts, and you also do get a really good understanding of that time matters. Short-term hash rate is useless. What you really want to have is long-term hash rate, about 1 hour or 1 day. That's even better. And you can see there clearly above a hash rate of 1 day, he's sitting at 2.5 terahash with his Node QX Plus. Let me quickly zip from my water. So you could close now your web UI and come back after a day, and you would still be able to see this chart, because this data has been saved on the PSRAM and can now be used later on, even though that you closed your web UI. And I've merged this over to the Hex firmware, and I'm testing it on my own. I will do a release for this tomorrow, maybe, or later, whatever I decide to do, for my firmware tester to just test this out, restart the device and stuff like this. And as soon as this is good, it goes into the firmware for the Hex, and then I'll probably also do it for the usual Bitaxe, so that it also goes over to the standard Bitaxe, like your Max, your Ultra, your Super, and soon the Gamma as well. So this is probably a nice feature, and it really desires, or it really needs some love from you guys. Alright, let's see what's going on here. Will the Bitforge Nano become part of the Bitaxe family and be in the BitaxeOrg repo? No, the Bitforge Nano will be in my repository, because, yeah, because it's created by me and Clear. It will use parts from the ESP miner, but everything will be open source as soon as it works. Currently I do have 2 boards here next to me. I was doing plenty of research and development, probably, or fuck around and find out, somebody else would say, because we messed up a couple of things, and we tried to use measuring devices on there that apparently aren't working for whatever reason. But we do have a clear understanding about it now, what's going on there, and we are ordering a second revision for this prototype really soon, and hopefully then it will work. And as soon as that happens, everything will be published on GitHub as well. So this community here is about this open source ethos, and the products that I try to create with my company and people that are working on this with me together, luckily, we always try to do this open source. It's just not, this is not specifically Bitaxe. Sure, it could be called a Bitaxe Duo, maybe, because it uses some parts that a Bitaxe does, but it is a completely different form factor, and it is the starting point of what is coming next, because there are way bigger machines in the planning, which will tie to this naming scheme of Bitforge. So you do get it, the Nano is just the smallest one, and this actually, just fun fact here, this was a no-brainer situation on BTC Prague. Like Clear and we were listening to this shit of Brains, and I really need to say this there, that they released their 1 terahash miner, which is specifically calling home to their own servers, so you can't use this without having a connection to Brains. And we were so pissed about it that we decided, alright, you know what, let's fuck them and let's just create an open source one, which is also cheaper. And I hope that we can achieve this with a big enough of quantities of producing them. But so far, even if we just would produce 100 of these units, we could beat their price easily and have an open source product. So that's the reason why this device exists. It was never our intention to actually create this, but now it's there. Yeah. Alright, let's see. Do you guys have actually any questions? Because as I usually say, it's this news room for you, but also it is for you, the come in and ask and have a chat. Because from the news point of view, we are done. And I'm not sure if you want to listen to me talking all day long about stuff that I just make up here. But I don't think so. Let me quickly wait if anybody of you wants to write something in the chat. If not, then we will close this session. This was a little bit fast, I believe. I do have something else that I could point out here. Also, these town halls are, as I always explain here, for the people, but on the development side, I try my best to give you much of an insight about what's going on, but on the admin side of this Discord, we decided to actually introduce some sort of a weekly meetup that we want to do to be up to date about what's going on, what we actually need to fix, which issue on GitHub we actually need to focus on, and therefore we will set up every week a meetup. I'm not sure if we will do this publicly, probably, I don't know. We need to talk about that as well. This will not be a stage for you to actually come in and ask questions. This will just be us talking about stuff that we are doing and being up to date about what's going on with the firmware and the hardware. And yeah, there's also one last thing I need to share. I applied for a grant from OSMU, and I did this because I feel there is a need to improve the web flasher. Most of you actually do know the web flasher that I created, which is on GitHub. And Scott asked me now multiple times if I can just improve it, but there wasn't really that much time. And now in the foreseeable future, I do have a little bit more time to work on that. So I asked for a grant and I got approved on that. And I want to share this with you because everything that we do here on OSMU is on the open source side. So of course we do get donations, and some of you might wonder, hey, where are those donations going? What's happening with them? From time to time we do release what's going on there. We release everything what we're doing with these donations. For example, a couple of weeks ago we purchased another Celia logic analyzer. I do hope that I do pronounce this name correctly. So that we now do have one over at the American pool site, and I'm calling the ocean a pool now, and over here in Europe. Currently this device is sitting here with me. I will use this very shortly for the 1 terahash brains machine, just to sniff a little bit more, but I guess there will be nothing interesting on the logic analyzing side there from the AC communication. Maybe something else will be interesting there, but this device will be shipped around in Europe, and the same goes for the American side. This device that we do have over there will be shipped around in America. And this is usually what's happening with these funds. Also, we do use these funds to boost this server here, to have it as public as possible, so that people actually see it and it gets recommended on them on these Discord overview sites. As well as we do have this opensourceminers.org website, which needs to be paid for. Also, therefore, funds are used. So what I'm trying to achieve here is to be as open as possible with you, to share with you what's going on. I mean, you could technically just throw up the Bitcoin address that you do use for the donations and take a look where are these funds moving. That's one part. Sure, you don't know what's going on up there, but yeah, I try my best to share everything with you. Alrighty. I'm looking at my NotX here next to me. Bitcoin is sitting at $64,257. Amazing. I do love this device. It's just beautiful to have this little screen here next to me. Other than that, I do not have any more topics for you. I thank everybody for tuning in here, listening to this, and everybody who asked questions or was giving some sort of reaction here in the Town Hall chat. Thanks to you. Everybody who's listening to this later on the podcast stage, feel free to check out our Discord, which can be found under discord.gg/OSMU. And if you do want to get yourself a BitX, check out the BitX legit list, which can be found at bitaxe.org, and just check out the link to the legit list. These are sellers that are actually contributing to this community and helping spreading this movement. Everything that hashes is needed, and your home will be Bitcoinized. Thanks for listening. See you next time.